The year was 2147, and natural birth was a whispered memory, a relic of an ancient world. Humanity, on the brink of extinction in the late 21st century due to environmental collapse and genetic stagnation, had clawed its way back with technology that bypassed the fragile intricacies of the human womb. The artificial birthing centers, massive, sterile facilities humming with the rhythm of engineered life, were humanity's salvation. Yet, something was missing. Despite the unparalleled precision of modern genetics, a mysterious gap persisted. Children born in these centers were physically flawless but emotionally hollow, their eyes pools of clarity but devoid of the spark that once defined humanity. Philosophers called it the soul rift. Scientists called it a glitch. But no one knew how to fix it. It was Dr. Layla Nasser, an Egyptologist turned quantum biologist, who first noticed the connection. Buried in the musty archives of Cairo's Grand Library of Antiquities, she had stumbled upon a papyrus fragment depicting the Eye of Horus in exquisite detail. The symbol was more intricate than the stylized version that adorned countless artifacts and modern tattoos. Its 6 distinct segments radiated from a central orb, each labeled with ancient hieroglyphs. Translation revealed their meanings: smell, sight, thought, hearing, taste, and touch, the building blocks of sensory perception. But one corner was torn away, as though deliberately removed. What struck Layla most was the text accompanying the drawing. It described the eye not as a symbol of protection but as a map to the seed of life, hinting at a lost technology. Layla's academic training urged skepticism, but her instincts told a different story. As a child in Luxor, she'd watched her grandmother mix traditional kohl from galena ore, applying it with a steady hand and murmuring blessings in the ancient tongue. "The eye sees more than the world," her grandmother had said cryptically. Now, decades later, Layla couldn't help but wonder, what if those blessings weren't just ritual? What if they were instructions? The breakthrough came 3 years later, deep in the underground labs of the Alexandria Quantum Institute. Layla's team had been experimenting with quantum harmonics, a controversial field that sought to bridge biological and quantum states. She had almost given up hope when a junior researcher, Tariq, proposed an experiment involving galena. The mineral's lattice structure might resonate with the quantum frequencies we're struggling to stabilize, he argued. Layla's breath caught. Galena was the key ingredient in ancient kohl. The coincidence was too striking to ignore. With mounting excitement, the team synthesized a quantum-infused version of the mineral, dubbing it Q-galena. They applied it to a rudimentary artificial womb model, a sterile glass sphere suspended in a magnetic field, and watched as the chaotic quantum states within the sphere began to synchronize. For the first time, the lab's instruments detected a coherent resonance, a hum that seemed almost alive. Word of the experiment spread rapidly, attracting the attention of both the scientific elite and shadowy corporate entities. The media dubbed the phenomenon Wedjat Wombs, after the ancient name for the Eye of Horus. Layla and her team were thrust into an international spotlight, hailed as pioneers of a new age. Yet the deeper they delved, the more they realized how little they understood. The 6 segments of the eye were proving to be more than just metaphors for sensory perception. Each segment, when mapped onto the artificial womb, corresponded to a distinct aspect of consciousness integration. The upper curve stabilized neural development. The spiral beneath it enhanced emotional resonance. The central teardrop-like shape fine-tuned sensory processing. But the missing segment, the one torn from the ancient papyrus, remained an enigma. Without it, the children born from Wedjat wombs still lacked the vital spark that Layla now believed was the essence of humanity. They were closer to the soul but still unreachable. Late one night, as a storm raged over Alexandria, Layla sat alone in her study, poring over every scrap of evidence. Her grandmother's old kohl applicator lay on the desk, a relic of a simpler time. On a whim, she dipped it into a vial of Q-galena and traced the outline of the eye on the back of her hand. The cold powder tingled against her skin, and for a brief moment, the room seemed to shimmer. A vision consumed her. She saw pyramids bathed in golden light, their capstones glowing with an otherworldly energy. Figures in flowing robes stood at their bases, their eyes lined with a luminous kohl that pulsed in rhythm with the stars. The missing segment of the eye blazed in her mind, a shape like an inverted spiral, radiating waves of iridescent light. She awoke on the floor, her heart pounding. The experience was unlike anything she'd ever known. It wasn't a dream or a hallucination. It was a memory, a fragment of a forgotten past embedded in her consciousness. The revelation propelled the project into uncharted territory. Layla and Tariq began working on a prototype that incorporated the missing segment, now dubbed the quantum spiral. It required a level of precision that pushed the boundaries of their technology, but the team was relentless. As the prototype neared completion, an unease settled over Layla. The vision had felt like a gift, but from whom or what? The answer came in the form of an encrypted transmission intercepted by the lab's quantum network. The message was brief and chilling. You are awakening what should remain asleep. Layla's blood ran cold. The message bore no signature, but its implications were clear. Someone or something was watching. Ignoring the warning, the team pressed on. The day the first fully functional Wedjat womb came online, the lab was flooded with a golden light, identical to what Layla had seen in her vision. The womb hummed with energy, its surface rippling like liquid glass. Inside, a single fertilized embryo began to grow, its development accelerated by the quantum harmonics. The child was born 6 weeks later, a girl with piercing amber eyes that seemed to see through time itself. Her presence was magnetic. Even seasoned scientists found themselves inexplicably drawn to her. Yet as she grew, it became clear that she was different. She spoke in patterns that defied linguistic norms, her words resonating with an almost musical quality. She could solve complex equations in seconds but struggled with simple human interactions. Layla began to fear that they had gone too far. The girl, dubbed Nefra, after the Egyptian word for beautiful, was a living paradox. She was the most human and the least human creation in history. One evening, as Layla watched Nefra sketch intricate patterns on a tablet, the child turned to her with an unnerving intensity. "The eye is not complete," she said in a voice that seemed to echo with countless others. "You see only what they allowed you to see." "Who are they?" Layla asked, her voice barely a whisper. Nefra tilted her head, her eyes glowing faintly. "The ones who gave you the map. The ones who built the first wombs. They are waiting." "Waiting for what?" Layla pressed, dread coiling in her stomach. "For you to remember." Nefra's words lingered in Layla's mind, reverberating with an unsettling truth she couldn't fully grasp. The ones who built the first wombs. They are waiting. But waiting for what? And why had they chosen her team, humanity, to rediscover their work? Questions piled upon questions, their weight threatening to crush Layla under the enormity of her own ambition. She resolved to probe deeper. The ancient texts, the galena, even Nefra herself, they were all pieces of a puzzle, but it felt as though she were fumbling in the dark for the final piece. That night, unable to sleep, Layla returned to the lab. Alone in the dimly lit facility, she initiated a deep scan of the Wedjat Wombs' quantum harmonics, hoping to find anomalies that might provide answers. The womb responded unexpectedly. The rippling golden surface morphed into a series of geometric patterns, spirals nested within spirals, converging on a central point. It was a language, but not one Layla recognized. As she stared, hypnotized, a low hum filled the room. The patterns began to shift, forming an image she knew all too well. The Eye of Horus, complete with the missing spiral. The hum grew louder, and Layla felt a pressure in her chest, as though the very air had thickened. Suddenly, the patterns collapsed into a single point of light, which erupted into a blinding flash. When her vision cleared, she was no longer alone. Standing before her was a figure cloaked in shimmering material that seemed to ripple like the womb's surface. Its face was obscured, but its presence was unmistakable. This was no human. "You have reached the threshold," the figure said, its voice resonating in her mind rather than her ears. "But you are not yet ready to cross." Layla found herself trembling, torn between awe and terror. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice cracking. "We are the architects," it replied. We sowed the seeds of your world long before your kind took shape. The Wedjat is our design, a bridge between the material and the infinite. You have rediscovered its purpose, but you lack the wisdom to wield it. Why now? Layla demanded. Why reveal yourselves now, after centuries of silence? Because you have awakened her, the architect said, gesturing toward a holographic image of Nephra that hovered in the air. She is a key, forged from your ambition and our design. Through her, you may unlock the true potential of the Wedjat, or doom yourselves to annihilation. Layla's knees threatened to buckle. What do you mean, annihilation? We created her to save humanity, not destroy it. Your intent is irrelevant, the architect replied coldly. The quantum harmonics you have harnessed are not merely frequencies of life, they are threads of existence itself. To tamper with them is to risk unraveling the very fabric of reality. The Wedjat is a conduit, a way to harmonize your world with the greater cosmos. But used improperly, it can become a weapon more destructive than you can imagine. Layla's mind raced. She had known the risks of tampering with quantum states, but this was beyond anything she had anticipated. What must we do to prevent that? She asked, desperation creeping into her voice. First, you must understand the spiral, the architect said. It is not merely a missing piece. It is a representation of the infinite recursion of consciousness, the link between the finite and the boundless. Without it, the Wedjat is incomplete. But to fully integrate the spiral, you must journey to its origin. The pyramids, Layla whispered, the memory of her vision snapping into focus. They're connected to this, aren't they? The architect nodded. They are anchors, aligning your world with the cosmic lattice. Within their depths lies the knowledge you seek, but be warned, others have tried and failed. The pyramids guard their secrets fiercely, and not all who enter will emerge. The light around the architect began to dim, its form fading. The choice is yours, Layla Nasser, it said. Unlock the spiral and bring harmony, or abandon your quest and preserve what remains. But know this, the eye sees all, and the path you choose will shape the destiny of your kind. As the figure vanished, the lab returned to its familiar stillness, but Layla knew her world had changed forever. The next morning, she gathered her team. Tariq, ever the skeptic, was the first to voice his doubts. You're telling us an alien being appeared in the lab and gave you a cosmic ultimatum? Layla, you've been under a lot of stress. I know how it sounds, Layla interrupted, her tone sharper than she intended. But this is real, Tariq. The Wedjat Wombs, the quantum harmonics, Nephra, all of it points to something far bigger than us. If we ignore this, we might never find the answers we've been searching for. And if we pursue it, we might unleash something we can't control, Tariq countered. That's a risk I'm willing to take, Layla said, her voice steady. I'm going to the pyramids. With or without you. A heavy silence settled over the room. Finally, Tariq sighed. You're impossible, you know that? Fine. If you're diving headfirst into ancient alien mysteries, someone needs to make sure you don't get yourself killed. Layla offered a small, grateful smile. Thank you, Tariq. 2 weeks later, Layla, Tariq, and a small team of specialists stood before the Great Pyramid of Giza, its towering form casting long shadows in the desert sun. Equipped with cutting-edge technology and the ancient papyrus fragments, they prepared to enter the depths of the monument. As they descended into the pyramid's labyrinthine passages, a strange energy seemed to pulse through the air, growing stronger with each step. The walls were etched with symbols that glowed faintly, resonating with the patterns Layla had seen in the lab. The team's instruments struggled to function, their readings fluctuating wildly. At the heart of the pyramid, they found it, a chamber unlike any recorded in history. Its walls shimmered with the same liquid-like quality as the Wedjat womb, and at its center stood a pedestal bearing a crystalline object shaped like the missing spiral. As Layla reached out, the chamber erupted with light, and a voice echoed in her mind. The spiral must be earned. Prove your harmony, or face obliteration. The air around them began to ripple, and shadows emerged from the walls, figures with glowing eyes, their forms shifting between human and something far more alien. The test had begun. The chamber vibrated with an energy that made the air itself feel alive. The glowing eyes of the shadowy figures locked onto Layla and her team, their forms pulsating as though they were manifestations of the quantum harmonics themselves. The voice echoed again, louder this time, reverberating through their minds and bones. "Prove your harmony, or face obliteration." Torik's voice broke the tension. "Layla, what the hell are those things?" "Not things," Layla murmured, her gaze fixed on the figures. "They're tests. Or guardians. Maybe both." One of the shadows stepped forward, its movements fluid, like smoke caught in a magnetic field. It raised a hand, and the glowing spiral on the pedestal began to spin, emitting a low hum that resonated deep within Layla's chest. The shadow spoke, its voice layered with countless tones. "The spiral is balance. To claim it, you must demonstrate the harmony of the 6 aspects: thought, sight, hearing, touch, taste, and smell. Fail to align, and the imbalance will consume you." Layla's pulse quickened. This wasn't just about solving a puzzle or navigating a trap. This was about embodying the very essence of human experience and transcending it. The first trial began without warning. The air thickened, and Layla's vision blurred, the chamber dissolving into a swirling void. She stood alone in a field of light and shadow, where disjointed sounds and images flickered around her. The laughter of children, the roar of a lion, the rustling of leaves in the wind. The sights and sounds clashed violently, creating a cacophony that threatened to overwhelm her senses. Sight and sound, the voice intoned. Perceive their unity, or drown in their discord. Layla closed her eyes, focusing on her breathing. The laughter, the roars, the rustling all felt disconnected, chaotic. But as she listened more deeply, she realized there was a rhythm beneath the chaos, a hidden order. The sounds began to blend, forming a melody that seemed to vibrate with the core of her being. She opened her eyes to find the void stabilizing, the shadows softening into harmonious light. When Layla returned to the chamber, Torik's panicked voice greeted her. "Layla, you vanished, and then these things, they moved toward us. What happened?" "I passed the first trial," she said, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her. "It's not about fighting them. It's about aligning with the principles they represent." "Great," Torik muttered. "Care to explain that in non-mystical terms?" Before she could answer, the second trial began. The shadows surrounded another member of the team, a young biophysicist named Miriam, and the chamber grew cold. Miriam's hands trembled as she clutched her equipment. "What's happening to me?" "Touch and taste," the voice declared. "Discern their connection, or be devoured by numbness." Miriam's face twisted in confusion. How am I supposed to?" "Focus," Layla shouted. "It's about the sensations. What you feel, what you perceive, there's a link. Find it." Miriam hesitated, then reached out to the air around her. At first, her hands passed through nothingness, but gradually, the textures began to change. Smoothness, grit, coolness, warmth. Tentatively, she pressed her fingertips to her lips, tasting the remnants of the sensations. Her expression shifted, a look of dawning understanding crossing her face. "I get it," Miriam whispered. "It's not just about touch or taste. It's about how they inform each other, how they work together." The shadows retreated, their glowing eyes dimming slightly. Miriam collapsed to her knees, trembling but triumphant. The trials continued, each one testing a different pair of aspects. One by one, the team members faced them, their success dependent on their ability to integrate the physical and the perceptual. Each trial left the group more drained, but also more connected, both to themselves and to each other. Finally, only one trial remained. "Thought and smell," the voice proclaimed, and the chamber filled with an overwhelming fragrance, a potent blend of flowers, earth, and something metallic. The scent was intoxicating, but it also carried a weight, an almost oppressive presence. Layla felt her mind begin to fragment, the scent pulling her into memories she had long buried. She was a child again, standing beside her grandmother as the old woman prepared kohl by grinding galena into powder. She was an adult, pacing the halls of the Alexandria Quantum Institute, her thoughts consumed by theories of consciousness and quantum states. She was every version of herself, and yet none of them, her mind struggling to hold on to a coherent sense of identity. Thought guides perception, the voice said. Perception informs thought. Fail to balance, and both will dissolve. Layla's breath quickened. She could feel her sense of self slipping, the memories blending into an incoherent stream. But then she remembered the harmony she had found in the first trial. The balance between chaos and order. The interconnectedness of all things. She inhaled deeply, letting the scent wash over her. Instead of fighting it, she allowed her thoughts to flow freely, no longer clinging to any one version of herself. Gradually, the chaos subsided, and a calm clarity took its place. When she opened her eyes, the spiral on the pedestal was glowing brightly, its light steady and pure. The voice returned, softer this time. You have proven your harmony. The spiral is yours. But know this, your journey is only beginning. The spiral is a key, and the door it unlocks leads to truths that may shatter your understanding of existence. Are you prepared to bear that burden? Layla stepped forward, her hand trembling as she reached for the spiral. If it means saving humanity, she said, her voice resolute, I'll bear whatever burden it brings. The moment her fingers touched the spiral, a surge of energy coursed through her, filling her with visions of distant worlds, ancient civilizations, and the infinite complexity of the quantum lattice. She saw humanity's past and future intertwined, their fates hinging on a delicate balance. And then the chamber dissolved into light, and Layla knew that the true test was still to come.